Join me as I sew this beautiful dress, a variation on the Valeria dress. And why do I call it a variation? Well, because to create this dress, I'm going to use one of our modular bodices, the Julieta bodice. Originally, the Valeria dress is a summer dress with spaghetti straps, and its defining feature is the flare on the sides of the dress. To sew this dress, I'm going to use the Julieta bodice, the one you see here, and by combining it with the skirt from the Valeria dress, we'll create this new style. The Julieta bodice pattern is designed to pair with a number of our dresses, including the Valeria dress. To sew this dress, I'm going to use a linen-viscose blend. With the fabric ready, we're going to cut out the pieces. But first, let's check which pattern pieces need to be swapped. This is the Julieta bodice. For the center front, we'll need to cut the Valeria bodice along the waistline, marked with notches, and attach the new bodice. We'll do the same on the back. We'll remove the top part of the Valeria bodice and attach the Julieta bodice along the waistline. The Julieta bodice pattern doesn't have a seam allowance in that area, so you can attach it directly. On the other hand, we'll remove the front and back side panels from the Valeria bodice and use those from the Julieta bodice instead. The rest of the hip and skirt pieces will be the ones used in the Valeria dress. As you can see, we're only changing the bodice without needing to make any alterations to the pattern. To cut the lining for the Valeria dress, we'll follow the original pattern. For both the center front and center back pieces, the lining only extends to the line marked on the pattern itself. The rest of the pieces are the same as for the outer fabric. As always, I like to start by cutting the largest pieces. In this case, the side panels of the skirt, and then place the remaining pieces in the gaps to make the best use of the fabric. It's important to mark all the notches on the fabric so that the sewing process goes more smoothly. Now I'll cut the center front and center back pieces, and then the lining. This time, I'm going to use the same fabric for the outer shell as for the lining. And that's because this fabric feels very nice against the skin. And now we really start sewing. You can serge the center front piece. You can also do this at the center back, or cover it with bias tape, as I'll do at the end. Other details that can help with the construction are adding 1 centimeter wide interfacing strips on curved areas like the armholes and neckline. We'll start by sewing the center front piece. placing both pieces right sides together and sewing along the seam allowance. Sew from top to bottom, then press the seam open. The center front is the only part you need to serge. The rest doesn't need to be serged because it will be covered by the lining. The next step is to sew the hip pieces to the bodice, both on the front and back. We'll sew the center back to the side panel, matching all the notches properly. Generally, you can press your seams open, but if your fabric is very thin, you can also press them toward the side. At the bottom of the side panel seam, we will press the seam toward the side. We'll do the same with the center front piece and the front side panel, carefully shaping the curve at the bust. I always say this, but it's highly advisable to have sewing hams for pressing rounded areas like the bust. It will help your pattern take on a much nicer shape. We'll sew the front and back together along the sides. We'll also take this opportunity to sew the shoulder seam. With this, the outer bodice is finished, and it's a good time to try it on and check that no adjustments are needed. If everything is fine, repeat the same sewing steps to sew the lining. The only difference is that it's a bit shorter at the center front and center back. Otherwise, the pieces are similar. Set the bodice aside and move on to sewing the sleeve. To sew the sleeve, we need to cut a bias tape about 3 centimeters wide and place it along the hemline to create a hem. If we just want to insert an elastic band, we'll make a continuous tape running from one side of the sleeve to the other. But if you'd like to add a tie, you could use 2 tapes and leave an opening in the center, just as I'm showing you here. In my case, I'm simply going to insert an elastic band, but I wanted you to know that option exists. If you're not quite sure how to create a hem with bias tape to insert an elastic, I'll leave a more detailed tutorial in the video description box. With the hem ready, we'll insert a 1 centimeter wide elastic band, but first, we're going to gather the sleeve head. We'll gather the sleeve head between the 2 dots that mark this section on the pattern. Thread the elastic through the track using a safety pin and secure the ends with a pin so the elastic can't slip out. To sew the elastic to the bodice, we'll place the sleeve right sides together. We'll start by matching the shoulder seam with the shoulder notch on the sleeve. Next, we'll secure the end of the sleeve by matching it with the balance marks on both the front and back. Next, we need to gather the sleeve to fit the curve of the bodice armhole. We'll sew along the seam allowance to sew the pieces together. Now, we're going to sew the lining. We'll start by placing the lining right sides together with the outer bodice and matching the entire neckline from the center front to the center back. We'll sew along the seam allowance. We'll clip the curved neckline area and turn the lining over the seam allowance. At this point, we'll sew an edge of stitching over the lining following the seam allowance. And now, we'll turn the lining toward the inside of the garment and press the entire contour of the neckline. The next step is to finish the armholes with the lining. You need to have the bodice in this position. You can follow these steps whether the bodice has sleeves or not. Slide your hand between the body and the lining and match the seam right sides together. Then pull to turn the garment inside out while still keeping the 2 layers of fabric right sides together. Pin the side in place and match the entire armhole of the back or front. It doesn't matter which, until you reach the shoulder seam, right sides together. The armhole cannot be sewn with a single stitching. You must sew one half, and once it is sewn, the other. I already have the back piece, so now I'll match the armhole on the front piece right sides together. Again, from the side to the shoulder seam where you'll meet the previous stitching. Since the armhole is a curved seam, we're going to make some notches so that the fabric lies flat. And just like you did at the neckline, you could sew an edge stitching. The lining is now in its final position. We'll use pins to secure the contours of the lining and the outer fabric so they act as a single piece of fabric. For the lining, at the bottom, we'll make an inward hem so it looks neat. will hold in place the entire hip contour, the center front, the center back, and the center back line where the zipper goes. In my case, I prefer to baste this entire contour instead of leaving the pins in, since it's more convenient when continuing to work on the garment. On the center back, I'm going to add a bias tape to make it look neat, but you could also just serge it. This is another good time to try on the garment and check that everything is okay before sewing in the zipper. If everything is correct, we'll sew the zipper into the center back from the neckline to the notch. If you're not quite sure how to sew an invisible zipper, I'll leave a tutorial in the description box. After sewing the zipper, we'll place the rest of the center back seam right sides together and sew it from the hem to the end of the zipper. And finally, it's time to sew the side pieces together. These are fairly large pieces, and we need to gather the top. The section to be gathered is marked by notches on the pattern. To sew this piece to the bodice, we'll place both pieces right sides together, starting at the side notch and working toward the edges, center front and center back, at the hem. Pin everything in place and position the gathered section in the area marked on the pattern at the top of the hip. You must adjust the size of the gathered section to fit that part of the bodice. To finish this seam, you can cover it with bias tape or simply serge it. Once you've sewn the two sides together, we'll hem the bottom. The dress is practically finished. We just have one little detail left on the zipper, which is to finish the top. We'll tuck the excess fabric from the zipper behind the seam allowance, and we'll secure it with a few hand stitches. I really like using this method when sewing in a zipper because it's easy to unpick even if the garment has a lining. And you have extra seam allowance in the garment. So if you ever need to take out fabric in the future, you can do it easily without having to open up the entire lining. And now, the dress is finished.